7 hidden divine forces guiding every dark chosen one. Are you followed? There's something strange happening to you. You can feel it, can't you? Behind the everyday noise, beneath the surface of ordinary life, there's a presence watching, guiding, pulling you away from the path everyone else seems to walk. It's not paranoia. It's not your imagination. It's the beginning of your awakening. And it starts when a force silent, ancient, and intelligent begins to interrupt your life. Most people never notice it. But you did. That's how I know you're one of the dark chosen ones. You were never meant to live a normal life. You were born with a purpose that terrifies your ego but awakens something vast and eternal within your soul. The first divine force every dark chosen one encounters is the force of isolation. It doesn't come gently. It rips you away from the crowd. You might lose friends. Family might feel like strangers. Even when you're surrounded by people, you'll feel alone. This force doesn't care about your comfort. It's only interested in your transformation. But you'll start to wonder why you don't fit in anymore. Why the conversations you once enjoyed suddenly feel hollow. Why you'd rather sit in silence than pretend to be someone you're not. This isolation isn't punishment, it's preparation. A sacred separation from the noise of the world so you can finally hear the signal of your soul.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Now, let me ask you something deep. What if your loneliness isn't a wound, but a portal? What if it's the universe pulling you into a space where you can finally see who you really are, outside of all the masks? This is where the second divine force appears, the mirror of inner chaos. It doesn't show you beauty first. It shows you your shadows. You'll face your fears, your doubts, your traumas. Everything you've buried will come to the surface, not to break you, but to show you what's been ruling you from the dark. This force is brutal. It will bring you to your knees. But it's only through this collapse that your true foundation can be built. If you're going through this right now, you might think you're losing your mind. But you're not. You're shedding everything that isn't aligned with your destiny. The pain you're feeling is your soul detoxing from illusions. Don't run from it. Sit with it. Let it burn you clean. Because the third divine force is right behind the fire, the whisper of truth. It's quiet. It doesn't scream. But once you hear it, you'll never be the same. It might come in a dream, a sentence from a stranger, a sudden knowing that shatters your old worldview. And when it comes, it doesn't ask for your permission. It simply is. And you recognize it not because it's new, but because it's what you've always known deep down. This whisper will guide you to make choices that scare you. It'll ask you to walk away from familiar things, from safety, from everything that once gave you identity. And here comes the fourth force, divine disruption. This one is wild. It will destroy your plans, end relationships, collapse your career. Not because you're cursed, but because you're being rerouted. Your soul made contracts before you came here. And these disruptions are not random. They're the universe correcting your course, violently if necessary, because you're not allowed to stay in a life that's too small for your spirit. So many people resist this part. They cling to the wreckage of their old life, trying to rebuild something that was never meant to last. But here's the secret. If you trust the collapse, you'll find something underneath it that's unshakable. That's when the fifth divine force steps in, the guardian of synchronicity. Suddenly, things start aligning in impossible ways. You think of someone and they call. You see the same numbers over and over again. You stumble into the right book at the right time. These aren't coincidences. They are confirmations. The divine is letting you know you're not alone. You're being guided. Keep going. But just when you start to feel the magic, the sixth force arrives, and it's the hardest one, the veil of silence. Nothing external will validate you here. People won't see the depth of your journey. You'll feel invisible again. Your progress won't be celebrated. Your breakthroughs will happen in secret. This is where most turn back. They think, if no one sees me, maybe I'm not meant for this. But you must go deeper, because the silence is sacred. It's where you stop performing. It's where you meet your soul in its raw form. And when you do, you unlock the seventh force, the most powerful of all, the embodiment of the divine within you. This final force doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with stillness, with peace, with power that doesn't need to shout. You begin to live from your center. You become the one others feel before they see. Your presence becomes medicine. Your words become catalysts. You don't seek the light, you are the light. And here's what no one tells you. Once you embody this force, you will be followed. Not by people, but by energy, and by spiritual intelligence, by ancestors, guides, protectors. They walk with you. They clear paths for you. They test you, yes, but they never leave you. So I ask you now, not as entertainment, but as a mirror, do you feel watched, followed, guided? Have you noticed the patterns, the disruptions, the silence, the whispers? If yes, you're not crazy. You're not broken. You're becoming. You're being led by forces most will never see. And if you trust them, if you surrender to this path, you will not only survive, you will ignite. What's coming next will take everything you've just felt and push it even deeper. We're going to break down each of these forces and reveal how to work with them, not against them. Because your power doesn't come from avoiding the fire. It comes from becoming it. Becoming the flame, how to work with the forces that are watching you. Once you realize you're being followed not in fear, but in initiation, everything begins to shift. The world doesn't become easier, but it becomes clearer. You no longer see rejection, silence, or disruption as random suffering. Instead, you start to see the fingerprints of the divine all over your life. You begin to understand that these forces aren't here to punish you, they're here to shape you. And the moment you shift from resisting them to working with them, you start to walk the path of mastery. The first step in working with these hidden forces is to stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is this trying to awaken in me? That question alone will change the texture of your existence. Let's take the force of isolation. Instead of treating it like a curse, what if you treated it like an invitation? What if the silence around you was space being cleared for something sacred to emerge inside you? Most people fear solitude because they've never truly met themselves. But you're being asked to become your own home, your own sanctuary, your own source of companionship. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Because a dark chosen one cannot be ruled by longing. You must learn to sit in the stillness and discover that your own presence is enough. Now, the second force, inner chaos, is where the real work begins. When your shadows rise, when your wounds scream, when your past plays in loops, you are not being attacked. You are being shown what still holds power over you. This is not the time to numb out or run. This is the time to investigate with love. Ask yourself, what part of me is still afraid? What belief is keeping me small? What memory am I still serving like a god? When you face your inner chaos with curiosity instead of fear, it begins to dissolve. You realize that the monster under the bed was just a part of you that had never been loved. And then comes the whisper of truth. Most people expect it to thunder. They expect enlightenment to be dramatic. But it's usually a flicker, a sentence in your mind that doesn't sound like yours, but feels more real than anything else. Working with this force means trusting your inner knowing, even when it contradicts your logic, even when no one else understands. It means honoring the pull to leave, to change, to begin again, even when it terrifies you. Because your soul is not interested in safety. It's interested in sovereignty, and truth is the language it speaks. Now, when divine disruption strikes, it feels like your life is falling apart. But here's the secret: everything falling apart is what's not aligned with your destiny. Working with this force means surrendering control, not giving up, but letting go of what you thought you needed, so something greater can come through. This is where trust becomes your superpower. You start to believe that the universe is not against you, even when it seems brutal. You begin to walk through the storm, not begging for it to stop, but learning how to dance in the rain. Because you know this is not chaos, it's construction. It's the divine rearranging your life according to a blueprint you can't yet see. And then, just when you feel like you're drifting, synchronicity shows up. Those little winks from the universe. A name repeated 3 times in one day. A stranger giving you advice you didn't ask for but needed. A dream that feels like a message. When you work with this force, you pay attention. You slow down. You live in awe, not as a concept, but as a practice. You write things down. You ask questions. You follow the crumbs. Because every synchronicity is a breadcrumb on the path your soul is walking. And the more you acknowledge them, the more they multiply. It's like the divine saying, yes, you're listening now. But then silence. Complete stillness. No signs, no synchronicities, nothing. This is the 6th force, and it's where many give up. But if you've made it this far, you're not like most people. This silence is not abandonment. It's a test. It's the divine asking, will you still walk in faith when there's no spotlight on you? Will you still choose alignment when no one's watching? This is where you build spiritual muscle. This is where your inner compass gets calibrated. You don't chase signs, you become the sign. You don't need external proof because you've touched something eternal inside you. And then something shifts. You stop needing to control. You stop performing. You stop doubting. You start living from a place so deep that your mere presence becomes light in dark places. This is when the final force awakens fully in you, the embodiment of the divine. That you're not just guided by the forces anymore. You become a conduit for them. You speak words that heal without trying. You walk into rooms and shift the atmosphere. And you create without fear. You give without expectation. You love without conditions. Not because you're perfect, but because you've been purified by fire. So I ask you again, and this time let it land with full weight. What would your life look like if you stopped running from the forces that follow you and started dancing with them? What kind of power would you unlock if you trusted that the chaos was part of the choreography? The next part will be the turning point. We'll go even deeper into how these forces shape your mission, not just your identity. You'll finally understand what you're really here to do and how your pain was never random. It was a map. The divine assignment, your pain was a map to your sacred mission. There comes a moment when you realize that your pain was not just something to survive, it was something to decode. Every wound, every heartbreak, every betrayal wasn't random. It was a breadcrumb, a coordinate on the map of your soul's larger mission. But most of us don't see it that way at first. We just feel the suffering, the confusion, and the heaviness. We wonder why life seems harder for us than for others, why we feel too much, too deeply, why we've walked through so many fires while others seem untouched. But if you're truly one of the dark chosen ones, then this truth will hit you like thunder. Your pain was the classroom. Your mission is the medicine. You were never meant to live a normal life. That's why normal things never satisfied you. That's why every time you tried to conform, to blend in, to play small, something inside you began to die. That was the divine force within you saying, no. You didn't come here for this. You came here to disrupt, to heal, to awaken. And guess what? The only way to truly awaken others is to walk through the very terrain they're trapped in. That's why you had to experience the abandonment, the silence, the loss, the darkness. Because now, when someone else is drowning in it, you don't just offer sympathy, you offer truth. Because you've been there, and you made it out with your soul intact. That's the divine assignment. Not everyone gets one. But those who do, they feel it from a young age. A sense that they're here for something more. A pull toward deeper meaning. A resistance to surface-level living. And even when they try to numb it, distract it, suppress it, it always comes back. Usually through pain. Because pain is the language the soul uses when you're not listening. But once you do listen, once you begin to trace your pain backward, you'll start to see the pattern. You'll see how the rejection from one person made you turn inward and discover your voice. How the failure of one dream made space for a deeper calling. How the loneliness you cursed was actually the container where your gifts began to form. Let me ask you a question that might change everything. What if nothing in your life has been wasted? But what if even the ugliest, most shameful parts of your past are sacred ingredients in the alchemy of your purpose? That's not poetic. That's reality for those who are spiritually awake. The divine doesn't throw away anything. It recycles our pain into wisdom, our trauma into empathy, our scars into maps that others can follow. But only if we're brave enough to turn around and face it instead of running. Working with your divine assignment means reframing your entire life. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of your story and start seeing yourself as the author of it. You realize that your mission isn't something outside of you, it's encoded in your experiences. It's in what breaks your heart. It's in what ignites your fire. It's in the things you feel you must speak about, even when your voice shakes. That compulsion, that's not random. That's divine urgency. That's the divine force whispering, it's time. And here's something wild. The more you step into your assignment, the more the hidden forces begin to respond. Synchronicities increase. People show up out of nowhere to help you. Ideas flood your mind. You'll feel like you've stepped into a river that's been waiting for you this whole time. That's because your assignment is not self-generated, it's soul-generated. You don't have to invent it, you just have to remember it. And the remembering happens when you stop resisting your past and start pulling the gold out of it. So here's the challenge. Go back through your life, not to relive the pain, but to extract the power. What patterns keep repeating? What themes keep calling you? What part of your story do you try to hide, even though it shaped you? That's the portal. That's the path. Your pain wasn't just yours. It was a seed planted in you to awaken something in others. You are the medicine. But first, you have to swallow the truth of who you've always been. The next part will bring it all together. We'll explore what happens once you fully accept your assignment and how the forces begin to move through you. This is where you stop just being guided and start becoming the guide. You become the force, living as the embodied oracle of the hidden realm. There comes a moment on the path of every dark chosen one where something irreversible happens, not in the external world, but in the deepest chambers of your inner being. You stop searching, not because you've given up, but because you've realized you are what you were searching for all along. You no longer look to the outside world for answers, permission, or recognition. You don't crave the spotlight, you become the flame. And in that moment, you don't just follow the hidden forces, you embody them. You become the force that once guided you. This is what it means to live as an embodied oracle. Everything you went through, the silence, the pain, the chaos, the isolation, was not just a test of survival. It was a sacred preparation. You were being shaped into a vessel that could hold power without corrupting it, wisdom without arrogance, presence without needing to be seen. The 7 hidden forces weren't just guiding you, they were initiating you. And now, after walking through the fire, you carry their frequency. You don't need to say much. Your energy speaks for itself. You become the still point in the storm, the grounded presence in a world spinning on illusions. But let's be clear, this embodiment is not about perfection. It's not about floating above life, untouched by struggle. No, it's the opposite. You become the most human, the most present, the most real you've ever been. Because you've made peace with your shadows. You've forgiven your past. You've stopped pretending, stopped performing. And in that raw authenticity, you become magnetic, not because you're trying to be, but because your soul is finally unfiltered. People feel safe around you, not because you have all the answers, but because you listen differently. You see them. You reflect something sacred back to them, the part of themselves they've forgotten. This is when life itself begins to reorganize around your vibration. You won't have to chase opportunities. They'll find you, not because of your status, but because of your state. The divine forces know when one of their own has awakened. They start working through you. You'll say things you didn't plan to say, and they'll land like lightning in someone's life. You'll be guided to places, people, and projects that seem random until you realize you're being used by something higher. Not in a way that takes from you, but in a way that flows through you. You become a channel, a bridge, a walking temple. But here's the sacred responsibility. Once you become the force, you can no longer live unconsciously. Your energy affects everything. Your thoughts shape timelines. Your words carry weight. You must move with integrity, but with intention, with reverence. This doesn't mean you become rigid or robotic. It means you become aware. You walk like the earth is holy. You speak like your voice carries prophecy. Not because you're better than anyone, but because you've remembered who you are. And now, let me ask you the final question, the one that unlocks your next chapter. What would happen if you stopped doubting your power and started living like the force was already within you? What reality could you build if you trusted that your soul is no longer a seeker, but a source? This is where the journey becomes a new beginning. You no longer wait for signs, you create them. You no longer need to be found. You become the one who finds. You no longer ask, "Am I guided?" You know you are the guide. And the world is waiting, quietly, desperately, and for someone like you to stand up, not in ego, but in essence, to lead, not with dominance, but with depth, and to love, not for applause, but because it's your nature. You are no longer followed. You are the force. Now, go build the world only you can see.